Hi golfers, Nick here from Golf Tech. In today's video, we're going to talk about the elbows in the golf swing. This is a really important move to help you control your body movement and help you swing this golf club on plane. In this video, we're going to take a look at a student of mine in a recent lesson, a dramatic change that he made to improve his ball striking. I'm going to share with you the tips that we kind of worked on in that lesson and hopefully help you golfers out there play better golf. First up here, golfers, we're going to take a look at this student swing. So in the takeaway here, first move was this right elbow to come out and away from the body. We call this kind of internal rotation of the right arm. This would be external rotation. So as he did this with the elbow, he'd learnt to kind of pull his hands inwards to try and get the club somewhat onto plane. But he really struggled with low point control, and he kind of tilted down too much to try and reach the ground as he did this because the hands were coming way too far behind him. So this was he kind of had these two moves of the hand path coming in excessively inside, but with the right elbow moving internal rotation here to try and combat that. If you'd taken the club back on plane and did this with the elbow, swing would start to get very steep, start to swing outside in. So you kind of learned to combat that elbow movement by pulling everything inside. And you do see this a lot where some golfers adapt their swing and certain moves to try and deliver the club into the ball on a good path. So he kind of had these two moves that counteracted each other but did work sometimes, but you could see how much the head was moving down and forward. So he really struggled with his low point control. So in the takeaway here, the idea would be to keep the elbows together as best as possible as you go back. We saw this golfer pulling the elbow in, really tilting down. Actually, you started to swing really far into out as well. So kind of these sort of shots like this, and where sometimes you might get the draw coming back, he would push some shots, he would overdraw some. So he was actually getting that path really into out. That last shot I hit there was 12 degrees into out, so the path was coming too much into out. So that's going to struggle with low point control. Then that golf has to move really far forward to try and get that club in front of the ball. If you start swinging too much inside out, too much to the right, you're going to hit behind the ball. So you're trying to counteract that by kind of leaning into the shot. So the keys here were that we had to try and train the way he used his elbows. This would help him control his shoulder tilt, control his head position from both viewpoints. Head was going down and forward from both viewpoints, too much tilt to the shoulders. But this is all a result of how this right arm moves. So as he goes back here, the elbow was staying kind of internal rotation here. This would be external rotation. Best golfers will externally rotate their arm. This gets that club moving around on plane. You can see I'm bending my right arm. So we did some practice feels, just doing this. Then with the club, just to try and get that feel. The training aid we used in this lesson was the ball between the arms. So we placed the ball between his arms and really got him to try and squeeze those elbows as he goes back, because it's a tricky one to get right. The first thing was that the elbows pulled apart. So by squeezing the elbows together, that does initially help with that takeaway. So that was the first thing we did. We kind of did the one arm practice swings, then we grabbed the ball and started to rehearse the backswing. So with the ball, doesn't have to be a particular model of ball, anything really, just to keep those elbows together. First thing we did was some swings where we kind of held his head in position. You can do this with the head on the wall if you want, but really just trying to get the feeling here of squeezing the elbows together, controlling the tilt to the shoulders, controlling the head position from both viewpoints here, just to try and get that feel for the movements in the swing. It's much easier to kind of replicate the movement without holding the golf club. Now the next step was to obviously make some swings, try and keep the ball there through the swing and just see if you could control this. You'll see the difference in this golfer's swing afterwards. Now to start with, we just practiced to about where the left arm is parallel and then through. I think if you can get the movements right to that point, it's the majority of the swing and you can still create good power. So I'm trying to keep this ball there, feel the external rotation of my arm, try and swing back on the right plane as you did this, and try and control my kind of head movement here. Let's give it a go. So I managed to keep the ball there, and yeah, not bad, pretty straight. So my path there automatically went to 4 degrees into out. Now, I practice a lot, play a lot, so my swing's usually about that. So when I use this ball, it kind of keeps me pretty much doing the same swings as I normally do. This is not an easy training aid to use. I use this a lot with golfers, just trying to get them to keep their elbows together in the swing. But the key really is, if you can squeeze the elbows and extend, rotate that arm, it's going to make it much easier to control everything in the golf swing. So once you've done some practice with the ball, you then want to try and replicate that without the ball. So as I'm swinging back here, really exaggerating this elbow. Something that might help you guys at setup here, when I set up, if you just have this right arm just kind of tucked underneath, so there's a slight flex to it. As we set up, there should be, that right arm should flex gradually in the backswing, should still be flexed here, start to straighten, and it shouldn't reach fully straight till about here in the follow through. So technically this right arm should be still slightly flexed as you hit the golf ball. So we're going to start slightly flexed. I'm going to squeeze my elbows together, try and replicate that same feeling as I swing through and even into the finish here. So as I'm going through into the finish, I'm also moving my hand path around to the left as well. Again, path there 3.9 degrees, so almost identical to the first shot I hit there with the ball. So keeping the elbows together, tucking in that right arm, helps you control the plane of the golf club. Just got to make sure you swing that club straight back up the plane instead of too much inside, and then control head movement from both viewpoints. If you can do that, you should be able to keep that club on plane and control your low point. So hopefully that video helps, guys. Obviously, don't have to use a ball for this. You can just squeeze your elbows. If you can get your head against the wall, that would also help you. Do some practice swings first, see what that looks like on video before you then start to hit some golf shots. So thanks for watching, golfers. If you've got any questions on that, post in the box below. If you don't already, please follow me on my other social media platforms, and I'll see you again next week for another video.